The ultimatum, the sky over New Geneva was dark, but it was not night. It was the shadow of something far above. Dozens of alien warships drifted slowly across the upper atmosphere, their silver hulls glinting like cold knives in the sunlight. People stopped in the streets to watch, some in awe, others in fear. The great screens over the city square flickered, and the emblem of the Galactic Council appeared. A deep, commanding voice spoke in the old interstellar tongue, with a translation following in a calm human voice. People of Earth, you will kneel before the Galactic Council. You will swear loyalty and pay tribute, or face the destruction of your worlds. The voice was cold, as if the choice was only an illusion. It promised war, no matter the answer. In the war chamber beneath the Capitol, Earth's leaders sat in tense silence. The room was a ring of light around a long black table, with holograms of generals and scientists standing in their seats from far-off colonies. No one spoke at first. On the far side of the table, Commander Elias Reyes leaned forward, his sharp eyes fixed on the Council's message still hovering in the air. They think we are still the same as when they first saw us, he said slowly. Small, desperate, scattered. An admiral shook her head. They have the Crimson Dominion fleet at their back. Commander, our outer colonies are already on alert. If they push through Titan Gate, Earth will be next. Ray smiled, but it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a man who had seen too many wars to be impressed by threats. They want us to kneel, he said. Let's show them what's been waiting in the dark. Several faces turned toward him, a mix of curiosity and fear, because they all knew what he meant. For over 100 years, there had been whispers of a hidden project, a fleet built not for defense, but for one purpose, total destruction. The Black Armada, it was a name spoken rarely, almost never on record. A ghost of a fleet, hidden under ice and stone, waiting. For the day humanity would face a war it could not win by normal means. President Hall broke the silence, her voice steady. Commander Reyes, you understand the risk. If we awaken the Armada, there is no turning back, no peace treaty, no surrender. It will be war until one side is gone. Reyes looked around the table, his voice low. Then we make sure it's not us. On a distant moon of Jupiter, far beneath the frozen crust of Europa, Titanic hangar doors had not opened in more than a century. They were sealed by code, guarded by myths. But now, deep under the ice, lights began to flicker on. Technicians and soldiers in black uniforms moved quickly, their faces hard and silent. In the darkness, the shapes of ships began to appear. They were not like the sleek silver ships of the aliens. These were monsters, black holes that swallowed light, sharp edges that cut shadows in the water and air. The Black Armada, back in the war chamber. Reyes received a secure transmission. The voice on the other end was cold and efficient. Sir? All systems responding, engines warming, weapons live. Reyes gave only one order. Bring them into position, but keep them dark. No one sees them until I say so. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council's message continued to play in every human city. Some people shouted in anger, others whispered in fear. On Mars, miners gathered. In the domed square, watching the same message on a screen above the ore market. On Titan, children in oxygen masks stood hand in hand, staring at the alien ships moving past the sky. Everywhere, the question was the same. Would Earth kneel? Or would Earth fight? Reyes stood at the edge of the war chamber's central platform, looking at the holographic projection of the enemy fleet. The Crimson Dominion had more ships, more guns, more experience in galactic warfare, but they didn't have the Black Armada. And they didn't know that humanity had been waiting for a moment like this. The meeting ended with no applause, no cheering, only the silent understanding that history was about to change. Outside, the alien ships in Earth's sky drifted away, but it was not retreat. It was the slow pullback before a killing strike. And somewhere, far beneath Europa's ice, The engines of the Black Armada roared for the first time in generations. Earth had heard the ultimatum. Awakening the Armada, the frozen crust of Europa stretched for hundreds of miles, cracked and scarred by centuries of shifting ice. Beneath it lay a hidden sea, and deeper still, something far older than any living human. It had been buried there. When Earth was still rebuilding from the First Contact War, hidden away so completely that most of humanity believed it was only a myth. But now the myth was waking. Commander Reyes stood on the command deck of the Resolute, one of Earth's. Few battlecruisers allowed near the site. Through the viewport, he saw the ice splitting in jagged lines, steam curling upward as massive steel doors began to grind open. The sound was deep and slow, like the groan of a dying world. Lights flickered in the dark water below, dim at first, then brighter, until they reflected like strange stars in the dark. Black sea, and then the shadows moved. One by one, colossal warships rose from the depths. Their black hulls wet with the freezing water. They did not shine. They did not reflect. They swallowed light, their armor absorbing every beam, as if the ships themselves were made of the void. Technicians on the Resolute whispered to each. Some in awe, others in fear. No one had ever seen the Black Armada in the flesh and lived to tell the story. The ships drifted upward without sound, powered by engines older than most nations. Each one bore no name, no emblem, only a number. Etched in dull silver on the side of the hull, Rey's second in command, Lieutenant Vega, stepped beside him. They look like nightmares, sir. Reyes didn't look away from the viewport. That's the point. In the control rooms buried under the ice, hundreds of crew members worked in silence. Hands moved across ancient consoles, systems coming alive after centuries of dormancy. The voices of Ship A came online, cold and sharp, confirming readiness. Primary weapons operational, secondary systems nominal, came one voice. Shields at 100%, engine cores stable, reported another. The Resolute's sensors lit up as the Armada's fleet-wide network came online. The power readings were unlike anything Vega had ever seen. It was not just strength, it was precision. Every weapon, every engine, every system, tuned for one thing: total dominance. Back on Earth, the Galactic Council's broadcast was still running. But in hidden war rooms across human space, new orders were being sent. Colonial fleets were told to stand down and hold position. No one but the Armada would face the Dominion. It wasn't because the other ships were unworthy. It was because the Armada fought by rules no one else dared to follow. Reyes opened a secure channel to Admiral Hark, the highest-ranking officer in Earth's Defense Command. "We have full activation," Reyes said. 30 dreadnoughts, 60 destroyers, and 25 support carriers ready. Hark's image flickered, his expression unreadable. "You understand, Commander. Once they see those ships, there's no going back." Reyes' reply was calm. "They made the mistake of thinking we would kneel, sir. Now they'll see what we've been building while they laughed." In the depths, the last of the massive hangar gates closed, sealing the ice. Once more, the Armada floated in formation, silent and waiting. Their black surfaces made them almost invisible in the cold darkness of space once they left Europa's shadow. Reyes stepped away from the viewport and walked to the central tactical display. A glowing map showed the Dominion's forward fleet. Near Titan Gate, their ships were large, bristling with weapons, but they were built for intimidation. The Armada was built for extermination. "First movement," Reyes ordered. "All ships dark mode. Set course for Titan Gate." Engines hummed softly, their power so contained that the ships left no visible trail. If you didn't know they were coming, you wouldn't see them until they were already upon you. In the silent dark between planets, the Armada moved like a shadow given purpose. Inside each dreadnought, soldiers prepared in dim-lit bays, their armor black as the ships they served on. Marines checked weapons. Engineers monitored reactor cores. Pilots sat ready in their strike craft. Every man and woman aboard knew they would not be remembered as heroes. They would be remembered as a warning. Back on the Resolute, Vega glanced. At Reyes. "Sir, what do we say if the council asks us to stand down?" Reyes' eyes were hard. "We tell them they had their chance." The stars shifted slowly in the viewport, and far ahead, the faint shimmer of Titan Gate appeared. Beyond it, the Dominion waited, confident in their power. They had no idea what was coming, no idea that the Black Armada was already in motion, and no idea that the next time they saw Earth's forces, it would already be too late, and Earth had chosen its answer. The first strike the void near Titan Gate was silent. No comes chatter, no signs of movement, only the quiet hum of the hyperspace corridor hanging in the darkness. The Crimson Dominion's forward scouts drifted in formation, their silver hulls sharp and gleaming against the distant stars. They were confident, almost lazy, because they believed the humans would wait until the full Dominion fleet arrived. They did not know that the Black Armada was already here, far beyond the range of their sensors. The Armada hung in the dark like a wall of shadows. No running lights, no engine glow, only the faint outlines of massive shapes moving in perfect silence. Commander Reyes stood at the tactical table on the Resolute, his eyes fixed on the enemy. "Positions. They still think we're hiding," he said quietly. "Let's show them we're not." The order went out on encrypted channels. The first wave of dreadnoughts slid forward, their black hulls absorbing every glint of light. In the Dominion scout ships, crew members noticed small distortions in their sensor readings. They dismissed them as harmless debris drifting near the gate. They were wrong, at exactly the same moment. All across the Armada, the primary weapons came online. No bright charging glow, no visible buildup, just a silent readiness that could kill in a heartbeat. Target lock confirmed. A weapons officer reported fire. Reyes said, his voice as calm as if he were ordering morning coffee. The first Dominion scout ship simply ceased to exist. One instant it was there. The next it was a twisted ball of metal, compressed into a sphere no bigger than a shuttle. The gravitational lance had fired once, folding the ship into itself. The other scouts panicked, their comms bursting with shouted orders, before they could even turn. The next two were gone, one sliced clean in half by a rail slug traveling faster than light, the other swallowed in a silent implosion. From the bridge of the Dominion command ship, Captain Varus stared at his dying fleet in disbelief. "Identify the attackers," he shouted, but the sensors returned nothing. It was as if the void itself was killing them. Then, for the first time, the Armada made itself known. Out of the darkness, the massive forms of the dreadnoughts emerged, their hulls reflecting the faint glow of the gate in jagged, broken lines. They looked less like ships and more like predators. The Dominion comms filled with a single voice, Rey's voice, transmitted on all frequencies. "This is Earth's answer," he said. "You brought your fleet to make us kneel. We bring ours to make you vanish." Before the Dominion could respond, the Armada moved. Black destroyers darted forward, their weapons firing in perfect synchrony. Every shot hit. Every strike tore through armor like paper. The enemy ships tried to return fire, but their targeting systems couldn't lock on to the Armada's shifting signatures. Dominion fighters swarmed into the void, but they were met by human interceptors. Small, fast craft that fought like blades in the dark. In one corner of the battle, a Dominion cruiser launched a barrage toward the Resolute. Reyes watched the incoming fire with steady eyes. "Counter," he ordered, and 3 support carriers projected a shield wall, the alien rounds shattering against invisible barriers. The cruiser never got a second chance. A dreadnought's main gun fired once, and the ship was reduced to floating debris. The fight lasted less than 8 minutes. When it was over, not a single Dominion scout ship remained. The wreckage drifted slowly toward the gate, a silent message for whoever came next. On the Resolute's bridge, Lieutenant Vega turned to Reyes, his face pale. "Sir, that was only their vanguard. The main fleet will see this." Reyes nodded once. "Good. I want them to." Across human space, encrypted feeds showed the battle's outcome to Earth's leaders. And in the halls of the Galactic Council, the first wave of panic began to ripple. They had expected a slow, bloody war of attrition. Instead, they had just witnessed the kind of slaughter that ended wars before they began. The Black Armada went dark again, fading into the void as if it had never been there. But the message was clear: Earth would not kneel, and anyone who tried to force it would not live long enough to regret it. The battle for Titan Gate shimmered like a giant ring of light against the black of space. It was the only stable hyperspace corridor into Earth's inner system, the single point where the Dominion could push their full force through. For centuries, the gate had been a symbol of trade and peace. Now it was about to become a killing ground. Commander Reyes stood at the front of the Resolute's bridge, his gaze locked on the tactical display. Sensors showed the Dominion fleet. Emerging one by one, massive warships with crimson banners painted across their hulls. Each arrival shook the void with a burst of energy, their engines glowing like molten suns. Lieutenant Vega glanced at the readings, his voice tense. "Sir, we're counting. 120 ships so far, and still climbing." Reyes didn't blink. Let them come. From the shadows of Saturn's rings, the Black Armada shifted into attack formation. The dreadnoughts moved like slow, patient beasts, destroyers, and interceptors weaving between them in silent arcs. Every gun was locked, every rail slug loaded, every grav lance charged. The Dominion's vanguard moved confidently toward the gate's exit corridor. Their commander, Admiral Correth, believed the humans would try to block them at range. He did not know that the Armada was already within striking distance. Reyes waited until the last Dominion battleship cleared the gate, sealing the corridor behind them. Then he gave the order: "All ships, break shadow." The void erupted as the Armada's hulls lit with faint ghost light, revealing the black giants that had been hiding in plain sight. The Dominion fleet hesitated for only a second, but that second was enough. The first volley from the dreadnoughts tore through their forward line. 2 battleships split open, spilling debris and bodies into space. A third ship vanished entirely under the crushing pull of a grav lance, its wreckage collapsing into a ball of mangled metal. Correth's voice roared over the comms: "Return fire. Earn them down." Hundreds of crimson energy blasts streaked toward the Armada, but human shield projectors shimmered into life, bending the shots harmlessly into empty space. Black destroyers darted through the gaps, firing precision bursts that cut engines, targeting systems and power cores in the chaos. Human boarding craft slipped past the front lines. On the Dominion flagship Vraxos, alarms screamed as armored human marines stormed the hangar bay. Their rifles spat bursts of plasma, their armor plating shrugging off enemy fire. One squad reached the ship's reactor room in under 4 minutes, planting charges and pulling back without a word. Back outside, the fight raged like a storm. Dominion cruisers tried to retreat toward the gate, but Reyes had anticipated it. "Seal the exit," he ordered, and 2 dreadnoughts drifted into position, their massive hulls blocking the corridor completely. Rail cannons fired point-blank into anything that tried to push through. From the bridge of the Resolute, the battle unfolded like a deadly dance. Every movement of the Armada calculated, every strike coordinated. The Dominion's formations began to crumble. Ships turned in panic, colliding with each other, engines failing, weapons going silent. In desperation, Correth ordered all remaining ships to converge on the Resolute. But Reyes was ready. "Now," he said, and the Armada's central dreadnought, Black Sun, fired. Its main weapon, a beam of compressed gravity, tore through the void, ripping 3 battleships in half and sending shockwaves through the formation. The Resolute's comms lit up with Dominion distress calls, voices begging for reinforcements. That would never come. Then the charges on the Vraxos' reactor detonated. A blinding flash consumed the Dominion flagship, the shockwaves scattering what was left of their fleet. Reyes gave the final command: leave survivors only if they can crawl home and tell the story. Within minutes, the battle was over. Titan Gate hung silent again. Surrounded by the drifting remains of what had been the Dominion spearhead, human salvage ships moved in to collect wreckage, while the Armada slipped back into the shadows. Across the galaxy, the news spread fast. Earth had not just defended Titan Gate, it had turned it into the grave of an enemy fleet, and for the first time, the Dominion began to wonder if kneeling might have been the wiser choice. Asterisk. Shadows over the Council. Galactic Council Chamber was carved from white crystal, its walls shimmering with the light of distant stars. Normally, it was a place of calm debates and careful words. Today, it was chaos. Representatives of dozens of species shouted over each other, their voices echoing in the high dome. Holoscreens floated in the air, replaying the destruction at Titan Gate from a dozen different angles. Every blast, every shattered Dominion ship, every silent drift of burning wreckage was on display. The Dominion's delegate slammed a clawed fist onto the table, his voice shaking with rage. They have unleashed a weapon fleet in violation of the Treaty of Void Arms. A tall, robed elder from the fallen worlds hissed in reply, "And whose fault is that? You demanded they kneel, and now you reap what you have sown." Whispers ran through the chamber. The Black Armada. For most of the galaxy, it had only been a story told by smugglers and soldiers after too much drink. But now it was real, and its existence had changed everything. The council chair tried to call for order, but her voice was drowned out by the arguments. Some demanded the council unite to crush Earth before the Armada grew stronger. Others suggested negotiation before the war spread beyond control. In the shadows behind the chamber, two hooded figures moved quietly. They were not delegates, not guards. They were assassins, sent by factions in the council, who believed the war could only be ended by removing Commander Reyes from the game. Far from the political storm, Reyes stood aboard the Resolute, looking over a holomap of the Sol system. He knew the council was in turmoil, and he knew what usually came next. Lieutenant Vega approached, holding a datapad. "Sir, we intercepted a coded transmission. Someone sending stealth ships into our space." Reyes didn't even look surprised. "Assassins," he said. "They'll try to make it look like an accident." 3 days later, near the asteroid belt, the assassins struck. A civilian freighter carrying food supplies to Mars suddenly went dark, its beacon cut. When the Resolute moved in to investigate, a hidden ship uncloaked and fired. The blast tore into the Resolute's flank, but the shields held. Reyes gave no time for a second shot. "Target them," he ordered, and a single rail slug from the Resolute's main gun punched straight through the assassin ship's hull. The vessel spun in silence, dead in space. Reyes ordered it brought aboard. Inside, they found the assassins, alive but restrained, their weapons sealed in magnetic locks. Reyes walked into the holding bay, his steps slow, his eyes sharp. He stood in front of their leader, a pale reptilian being with cold silver eyes. "You came to kill me," Reyes said quietly. "But you forgot one thing." The assassin tilted his head. "And what is that?" Reyes leaned closer, his voice low. "I'm harder to kill than planets." Instead of executing them, Reyes had the leader placed in a stasis pod. It was sent back to the Galactic Council with a simple message: "Next time, I won't return them." Alive, when the pod arrived in the council chamber, the arguments stopped. Everyone understood the message. Even the Dominion delegate fell silent, his claws curling slowly into his palms. In the weeks that followed, whispers spread through the lower worlds. Oppressed colonies under council control began sending encrypted messages to Earth. They had seen what the Armada could do, and they wanted to join, On the Resolute, Reyes studied the growing list of potential allies. He knew the war was no longer just about Earth. It was about every world that had been told to kneel, and he intended to give them all a reason to stand. The final push the Dominions home. System burned in the distance. From the command deck of the Resolute, Commander Reyes could see the faint glimmer of its twin suns on the tactical display. This was not a border raid, not a defensive stand. This was an invasion. The Black Armada had gathered in full force, every dreadnought, destroyer, and carrier in perfect formation. The void around them was heavy with silence, the kind of silence that comes before a storm. Lieutenant Vega looked over the fleet's status. All ships report ready, sir. Weapons charged, shields steady, engines locked to strike vectors. Ree's eyes stayed fixed on the map. Once we enter their system, there's no turning back. No reinforcements, no retreat. His voice was calm, but everyone on the bridge felt the weight of it. At his signal, the Armada moved. Their engines ignited with a low hum, and the black warships cut through the darkness like shadows with purpose. They crossed the edge of the Dominion's territory without resistance. Then the alarms began to sound. Enemy ships poured from their defense stations, cruisers, interceptors, orbital gun platforms. The entire might of the Dominion gathered to defend their home. The lead dreadnought, Black Sun, fired first. A gravlance lanced through space, shattering a defense station in a single hit. Pieces of molten metal spun away like sparks from a dying fire. The Dominion fought back with everything they had. Crimson beams lit the void. Missile salvos streaked through the black. The Armada's shields flared bright, holding steady against the onslaught. Destroyers darted forward, targeting planetary shield generators and weapons arrays. Every strike was surgical, every hit disabling key systems instead of wasting fire on armor. Then the Armada's carriers released their strike wings. Hundreds of black fighters streaked through enemy formations, weaving through fire and cutting down ships with precision. On the Dominion capital world, alarms echoed in every city. Civilians looked up to see massive black silhouettes, blotting out the twin suns. Shadows crawled across the streets as dreadnoughts entered low orbit. Rey's voice cut through the comms. Surrender now and live. Resist, and you will watch your fleets burn. The Dominion's Supreme Commander responded with a snarl. We do not kneel. Reyes gave the order without hesitation. Begin orbital strikes. The Resolute's main guns opened fire, joined. By the full weight of the Armada, military shipyards exploded into fireballs, launching debris into the upper atmosphere. Fortified defense towers crumbled under the impact of kinetic rounds the size of buildings. In less than an hour, the Dominion's planetary fleet was gone. The last of their heavy cruisers tried to run for the outer moons. It never made it. 3 destroyers boxed it in, and a dreadnought's rail cannon ended it in one shot. The Council's distant chambers. News of the destruction arrived in real time. Delegates watched as one of the galaxy's oldest military powers was dismantled before their eyes. Back in orbit over the Dominion capital, Reyes opened a direct channel to the Supreme Commander. The alien's face filled the screen, battered, desperate, and furious. This ends now, Reyes said, his voice cold. Kneel or burn. The alien hesitated, the fire in his eyes flickering. Finally, he lowered his head. We? Kneel. The words echoed through the bridge. Heavy and final, Reyes closed the channel, giving a simple order. Ceasefire, hold position. The Armada drifted in silence over the conquered world, their black hulls like an unending night. Above the twin suns, the message was clear. Earth did not kneel, and now neither did the worlds who followed it. The message to the galaxy. The twin suns of the Dominion homeworld hung low on the horizon, their light dimmed by the smoke of burning cities. Above them, the Black Armada drifted in perfect formation, their hulls casting vast shadows across the planet's surface. From the flagship Black Sun, A transmission beacon powered up, its signal stretching to every known corner of the galaxy. Commander Reyes stood before the wide viewport, the conquered world beneath him. His armor was black, his shoulders carrying the weight of a war now won. Around him, the bridge crew worked in silence, their eyes fixed on their stations. "Broadcast," Reyes ordered, and the com officer nodded. Across thousands of systems, on every species newsfeed, the image of Reyes filled the screens. To some, he was a savior. To others, a nightmare. Given human form, this is Commander Elias Reyes of Earth. His voice began, calm and cold. "You have all seen what happened here. Images of Titan Gate, the destruction of the Dominion fleets, and the fall of their capital world flashed. In sequence, we were told to kneel," Reyes continued. "We were told to obey. We were told to be silent and small." His eyes narrowed. "We chose to stand." He gestured to the fleet behind him, their black hulls lined against the stars. "This is the Black Armada," he said. "It exists for one purpose, to make sure no one ever tries to put humanity on its knees again." In the council chambers light years away, delegates sat frozen. Some clenched their fists in anger. Others leaned forward in awe. Reyes' voice dropped lower. "If you are an enemy of Earth, remember what you have seen. If you are a tyrant, remember the wreckage at Titan Gate. If you are a ruler who rules with cruelty, remember that you may one day see these ships above your world." His gaze hardened. "And if you are oppressed, if you are under the boot of those who believe themselves your masters, know this, you are not alone anymore." From the shadows of the bridge, Lieutenant Vega watched the reaction streaming in from across human space. Some worlds were already raising banners with the Armada's black insignia. Others sent encrypted messages pledging ships, resources, and soldiers to Earth's cause. On the Dominion homeworld below, the once proud Supreme Commander stood in the ruins of his palace. He looked up at the sky where the Armada floated, his people silent around him. He knew their empire's age was over. Reyes turned slightly toward the com officer. "End broadcast." The screens across the galaxy went dark, but the message lingered in every mind. The Black Armada began to move, its ships breaking formation and gliding into hyperspace lanes. One by one, they vanished into the void, leaving the Dominion capital in silence. In their wake, the stars seemed just a little dimmer, and every ruler in the galaxy knew the truth. Earth kneels to no one. From that day forward, stories spread like wildfire. Merchants whispered of seeing a single black destroyer in orbit and watching entire pirate fleets vanish without a fight. Soldiers told of shadowy ships that appeared in the middle of a siege, ended it in minutes, and left without a word. For the oppressed worlds, the sight of a black hull in the sky meant hope. For the tyrants, it meant judgment. In the quiet of the Resolute's ready room, Reyes sat alone, looking out at the starfield. The war was over, but the mission was not. There would always be another power hungry enough to try, and when they did, the Black Armada would be waiting, silent, patient, and ready to strike. Asterisk.